Time now for Focus, your weekly news program about Lorain City Schools from WLCS TV 20. Now your host, Ron Bakalar.
Well, our general election is just around the corner. Not too many days from now, people will be going to the polls. And obviously here in Lorain, one of the most significant items is issue 39. So here we sit in the office of the Superintendent of Schools, Tom Tucker, to my immediate left, and to my far left, Dale Weber, the treasurer of Lorain City Schools. And gentlemen, we're here to talk about the importance of issue 39. So who wants to grab the ball on the 1-yard line as I hand it off and go the 99 for the touchdown?
Mr. Weber,
Tucker, go ahead, he looks like a good tailback.
One of the questions has come up, why Lorain City Schools need new operating funds. And being from the district for quite a long time and returning again, there's been no new money passed in Lorain City Schools since 1992. The community has been very, very generous in that they've approved all the renewals, and they've been very good that way. They also have been very, very generous in passing the bond issue and all our new buildings that are going up, but there's been absolutely no new money. Some things have changed since 1992. The governor, to balance the budget, has taken away a lot of the tangible personal property tax. We had a few years we were lucky with some stimulus funds, and those are totally gone. And the district last spring, before I came back, had to make a decision on what they were going to do for the new funds. They decided to go for 4.8 mils, which is half of what they've been asking for before. And what that was is they figured with everybody hurting so much that was an amount of money that could possibly pass. Does it erase 100% of it all? No, but it gets us quite a ways down the road. So
you're saying that 4.8 hopefully passes in November, will not get the Lorain City Schools completely in the black?
No, what we have to do then is do some more reductions, and we're looking on the administrative end and do some other things to balance that budget. But this is not for raises or anything else. This does not give us a lot of excess funds at all.
Now, concerning raises, the Lorain Education Association, they recently approved a new contract which did not include raises, if my memory?
Correct. They've actually been on a 2-year pay freeze and also frozen their steps, so they didn't even get the extra steps. And I believe the administrators, correct, Mr. Weber, took a 2-year freeze also.
We took a freeze last spring. That's correct.
Okay. All right. So what are we actually looking at as far as numbers are concerned?
The deficit we're looking at is about $4.8 million for this fiscal year, which is fiscal year 12-13. Fiscal years run from July to June. And next year, the year after that, we're looking at about an $11 million deficit. That's without the passage of issue 39.
Okay. So in reality then, you're going to make a number of still cutbacks?
There's going to have to be a number of cutbacks on some other end that we can do. The one thing I would like to mention is one thing that we think is very important is all-day kindergarten. And if this levy does pass, we will be reinstituting the all-day kindergarten, because that's an important for our students and something we have to budget for and make that happen.
Well, one of the things that reading in the local newspaper, for example, some of the letters to the Voice of the People, if they still call it that, in the Morning Journal, people indicating I'm not going to vote no on this levy because I'm a United Auto Worker, and people in the Lorain City Schools don't all buy cars made by UAW employees. How do you deal with that?
I drive a Ford.
I drive a Ford and a Mercury Grand Marquis, thank you.
And have always driven a Ford or an occasional Chrysler. But I can't obviously control what our employees buy or don't buy, and if that's the excuse that you want, I guess you could go for that. But there's some other things at play here. If you live here, it also is part of your property values, and your schools reflect your property values, and you really need to take a look at this. Isn't going for people's raises. What you're looking at is I even heard someone I read in the paper, oh, it's a sinking ship. Well, if that's what you believe, you can believe whatever you choose, but we're still the largest school district in the county, and we still educate the most students. And those students are going to be our adults, and they're going to be living right here. And we need to get them a high school diploma with some training so they can either go on to post-secondary education or the career tech, career prep, formerly known as vocational areas, so they have an opportunity to go out, become productive citizens, make money, and get taxes back into the system.
And you spoke, Tom, about property values just the other day in both the Morning Journal and the Chronicle-Telegram. They were showing the percentage decrease of property value, and Lorain was right up there among the top ones where the property value is decreasing. What does that mean as far as taxable income for Lorain City Schools, and the fact of what you're saying, if it goes down even more, so will the value? It's
less money that we collect. We had, I mean, you know, these come up every so many years, and we planned ahead for that. Our treasurer, Mr. Weber, planned, actually, as it was stated in the paper, he figured in about $500,000 loss into next year's budget, which is incorporated into what our deficit is. We found that it was only going to be about $312,000, so it's a little bit less, which will help. But if you call that a help, it will continue to drop, because in 3 more years, I believe it's every 3 years, correct?
There's a 3-year cycle every 3 years. That's correct, sir.
So in 3 more years, they'll be reevaluating our property values again, and it could either stay the same, go up, or go down.
Education-wise, Lorain City Schools once upon a time provided all kind of programs for students, programs that other school systems in Lorain County and elsewhere would covet to have available to their students. Where does that stand today?
We still are maintaining a lot of those programs, the 4 languages, the post-secondary options class for the students who would like to learn or earn college credit while they're in high school. We've maintained a lot of the gifted programs, and that there are some that we've had to eliminate. We hope to try and resurrect those in one shape or another, but we're not at what they call, quote, state minimums. We're not there. We've got a lot of programs for a lot of students.
Now let's for a moment flip the coin over. What's the bad case scenario in the event that issue 39 would not pass?
What happens at that point then is our expenses are going to exceed our revenue, which they are currently. We did have some carryover, but that of course ends. At that point then, there's a number of triggers that occur, and at that point you have to notify the state. The state sends some people in, and then you go into what's called, everybody thinks it's a state takeover. It's not a state takeover. It puts you in fiscal emergency, correct, I believe is the actual term. What happens then is there's a committee that comes in and approves expenditures, but what they don't do is erase your debt. It isn't like when you declare bankruptcy and it's pennies on the dollar. They still expect you to pay it back, and what they will expect is every time an election comes forth, then you will have to put the levy up. And if it is a 7 mil levy that they determine that you need, you put 7 mils up. And then if it doesn't pass and it goes up to 10 the next time, then it's 10 mils. And then if it's 12, it's 12. It's whatever is needed. And then once again, you have to start cutting back till you get to a certain point. But basically, all they do is oversee expenditures. If Mr. Weber knows a little bit more, maybe he can fill you in on some of the
There's also a commission that comes in to help the district with some of those issues, but the more restrictions on the district also, hard to get some things done through the system and whatnot to get the financial track back on, but also the Mr. Tucker talked about the deficit issue. You would basically be borrowing against yourself, your own foundation it's called, but pay it back over a 2-year period. So it's a cycle of borrowing in a very, very short time period to pay it back. It's just not a very attractive picture.
So the bottom line is, if Lorain City Schools is going to have any chance whatsoever, any hope for the future, issue 39 is paramount.
This is paramount. That's why they chose a small amount, and hopefully that can get us through.
All right. Again, devil's advocate. The individual or individuals out there who say, why should I vote for issue 39? As you indicated, Lorain City Schools is a sinking ship. We see the progress that is being made by all the school systems surrounding Lorain, and here Lorain with the latest report card indicating 1 out of 26 items.
That's correct.
So there must be something wrong with the school system. You and I know that that is not the case, and we need to convince those voters out there that there is a unbelievable education to be had if the students come from home prepared by a parent or parents that education is important and the only way they're going to succeed.
What the report card, if you really study the report card and what it means, the report card says that you have to meet a certain criteria at a specific time in your life. Because it's the 3rd grade, the 4th grade, the 5th grade, the 6th grade, the 10th grade test. And with some of our students, in fact, we have, and I've talked about this in an earlier article, there's a test that we are required to give our students, and it's called the CRAWL test, and it's an acronym, and basically it's a kindergarten readiness assessment is what it is. And what it tells us this past year is only about 13% of our students are currently what they call kindergarten ready. What we really need to do for that is have some more preschool and some more things. The problem with preschool is it costs money. So we don't have enough to offer our preschool. But what it does do for our teachers then is you have to look at how much growth do our students have. If you fast forward those students from kindergarten and you fast forward them to 10th grade, which is 10 or 11 years of school depending on when they take that test, you're looking at 70% of our students, 75% of our students passing. What that tells us is the longer we have those students, and our teachers are giving them more than a year's growth in education, so we're going from a 13% to a 75 to the 11th grade year at an 85% passage rate. So the teachers here are working hard, doing a lot, and our students are coming through. But that takes money for a lot of the remedial things that we need to do, and also some of the interventions at some of our students that have some very, very significant needs.
And the money from that would be made available, hopefully, from the passage of issue 39.
Yes, it would, because that's what we need. As you know, this district has laid off a number of employees, and the place to put your employees is as close to education with the students as possible. And that's what we need to do. The interventions, if you look at research, interventions are what works, and those students need more time. Some of the students that come in ready, they have their parents read to them, they've gone to a preschool, they've got a lot of things ahead. Well, our students just need that time, and whether that's a longer school day, whether that's some summer work, they just need that time to catch up with the rest of the students.
You know, I've been, as I indicated to you fellows earlier, I've been hosting this focus show now for almost 18 years. And I can recall back when Joe Kazura was still the state representative from Lorain, and we would sit and do focus shows. And I'd always ask him the question, Joe, the Supreme Court of the state of Ohio has declared the current way of funding schools is unconstitutional. Not once, not twice, but a few times. What are the state legislators going to do about this? In the meantime, the voters out there are saying, it's not fair, it's not fair. I'm taxed up to here, it's not fair. So how do we deal with that?
Well, the governor or the state had a large deficit, if you remember, a few years ago. And what they chose to do, the legislators and the governor's office together, what they chose to do was really cost shift some of those local monies to make it down to the local level. They took away and eliminated some of the things that we used to get, and basically have told them locally, and not just schools, they did that to townships, cities, and a host of other things. They've cost shifted them to the local level. And that's very difficult for communities such as Lorain, because Lorain does not have the industry and does not have the wealth of other districts. So it puts a more undue burden on this community. And until there's a change change at the state, we are set up for the system that we're handed. With the new things such as the open enrollments and the new charter schools who have a different set of regulations and rules that we do, a lot of our money goes to those particular entities, and that also hurts us. And everybody says, well, all the students should do that, but we still have 7,000 plus students attending our schools. Wow,
that's a lot. That's a lot to deal with. One of the things that I wanted to ask too, and it kind of deals with going back to what we were speaking of earlier, the various programs. Not all students that come to Lorain City Schools are eventually going to be college bound.
That's correct.
Do we have the facilities and the programs for those who are just going to be in the labor force when all is said and done?
Actually, that's a good question. I also read in the paper, someone says, oh, why don't you belong to the Lorain County JVS? Well, years ago, Lorain had their own programs. We still do. We have, I think there's 15 or 16 programs, I'd have to look at the exact number, of vocational career tech, career prep ready courses where those students actually get some job experience. And there was an article just in the Journal a little while back that featured them. If you remember, the title was, that we're a little cramped for space now, but the programs are still going on. We have the restaurant, which we still add, the culinary arts program, and a number of those programs that students can go on and participate. They're right here locally. The problem with us joining a JVS is when there's transportation, and they couldn't take near as many students as we have involved in those programs. So we do have our own JVS basically internally, always has had, and it's still a very strong and viable program for our students.
Automotive repair?
Automotive repair, yep.
My current mechanic graduated from Admiral King in the 60s, Al Perhot in automotive repair. Yep. And one that I used to go to before until he left the business, also graduated from Admiral King. And so the possibilities are there. Now, I'm going to put you not on the spot by any stretch of the imagination, but you have spent the bulk of your professional career in the Lorain City Schools. Let's go back to when you were in the classroom. Now that you're the superintendent, looking back or looking down on the whole picture, what are your thoughts? What are your feelings concerning the kind of educational programs and the value of the education that Lorain City Schools can and do provide?
The one thing that when I came back, and it's amazing what 4 years will do to you, to leave and then come back, is you realize there's a whole lot of real hard-working people out there. And that's one of the reasons I came back is because of the staff and the people that work hard, and they give their heart and soul. A lot of times you always hear about this person or that person, but for the most part they do a lot for our kids, and they want to make those kids succeed, and they do a great job. Being in the classroom that's the one thing you know, everyone says they miss it. I do miss it. I spent 24 years in a classroom, so it isn't like I was there for 2 or 3 years and then out. I spent a lot of time in the classroom. Watching those students succeed is a real positive thing. Even when I became a principal, one of the best days, and you don't really enjoy it until you experience it, is graduation. And you stand there and you shake hands because you know some of those kids make it by the skin of their teeth, but you know they've worked hard. And that is what is important, to get those students through, because now they have an opportunity. This past weekend, with Friday night, I was at the football game, and Saturday night I was at the band show in a rainstorm. But because it was a senior night, and a lot of former students I ran into, which I hadn't seen in some of them 10, 15 years. And it is amazing the little things that they tell you. And I'm sure your former students will say, you have your little pet phrases to try to get them to succeed and do well. And it is absolutely something to hear them repeat those things, and that made a difference in their life. And we've got a whole lot of folks out there doing that every single day, because a lot of them don't have some real big adult leaders in their life. And there's a lot of folks that are working in Lorain schools that are those adults and those role models for those students that we have.
And as you were saying that, I couldn't help but reflect on the time a few years back. We did a focus show over at the Charleston studio, and I had to my immediate left Sarah, and beyond her Mandy Pangratz, two sisters who graduated from Admiral King High School. And the thought of bringing them back was to address a lot of comments that were being written in the Morning Journal from people writing letters to the paper about the kind of education. Now here are two young ladies who went off to college, Mandy to Kent State University, Sarah to Bowling Green State University, and are doing successfully well today. And both of them pointed out the education we got was fantastic. Now, that's the good news. Another part of the good news, their next door neighbors and their mom and their dad are there encouraging them all the time. And that's what we need. We need that throughout this entire city, whether there is a father in the home or not. There was a recent letter written in the Morning Journal from Jim Andrews, the owner and proprietor of Jackalopes, and he pointed out the things that are wrong with Lorain and Elyria, and that was one of the things, you know, the number of youngsters that are coming from broken homes where there isn't the time being spent with them to encourage them to go and get that education that is so terribly needed. Your thoughts? Well,
education is the key. It is the key. I just know I'm the first college graduate in my family, and at the opening day of school this year, I asked how many the teachers sitting in the room were the first graduate, and for a lot of them, it was. We all came. A lot of us came from Lorain and came from working blue-collar homes, which was fine. But education is the key. Those students spend the time, get the degree, and move on. They can do well. And we need to be there for the interventions and the assistance for those students, for the supports that they need, because a lot of times they may not get it elsewhere. And school is where they're going to get it, and our folks are there to help them.
I recall, as you were saying that too, when I graduated from high school in 1955, my dad said, all right, now what are you going to do with the rest of your life? And I said, I'm going to work on the railroad. I loved trains as a kid. I still do today. And he said, no, you're not. You're going to college. I said, Dad, I don't want to go to college. I want to work on the railroad. Well, you know, back in '55, there was no such thing as child brutality. And if you didn't pay attention, if you didn't honor your mother and your father, as the Lord's commandment indicated, you got whooped. And I'll never forget, the gym teacher, when she would see the welts on the back of my thigh, did not run to the nearest phone to call the police department or children's services. She said, ah, Ron, you were bad. You got a whooping. Well, that was then.
That was then.
It's a whole new ball game today. But to this day, I'm thankful. I'm thankful that I had the opportunity. I'm thankful that I began my teaching career when Admiral King opened. I'm thankful for the wonderful students. And like you say, it's so great to hear from them. In fact, one of my former students, who is a retired English teacher now in Atlanta, Georgia, would email me and say, Mr. Bakalar, you got to go on Facebook. Ellen. Ellen Fain from old Nelson and Fain Teleclinic.
Yep.
I said, Ellen, I'm too old for that. And she kept hammering. She said, a lot of your former students want to get in touch with you. All right. And that was a blessing too. That was a blessing too, because so many have come out of the woodwork, so to speak, and to hear about them and the success that they are having. It's a great feeling, and I'm sure that's so true with today's teachers still in the classrooms.
Absolutely.
Well, Mr. Weber, we have kind of monopolized this discussion here, and you've just been sitting there smiling. Let's hear some thoughts from you about the importance of why we need to pass 39, even if you're going to be repetitive.
Yes, the issue 39 is for the Tuesday, November 6th vote. And it's, like Mr. Tucker had indicated before, we haven't had new operating funds since 1992. Very, very important that we get a new influx of funds into the school district. It'll cost about 30 cents a day, which is about $9 a month, cost of a medium-sized pizza, think about it that way, to help educate our kids and give us an influx and infusion of money to help maintain and maybe bring back a program or two that Mr. Tucker talked about in the last few minutes. The hardworking folks of the city, we appreciate all their help on this matter, and we hope that everybody has a positive input about this levy and thinks about voting for it and says yes in November.
And as you were commenting on that, again, I couldn't help but reflect on, I support a young man through Compassion International in El Salvador. And the cost there is $36 a month. Now, that may seem like a lot to some, it may not seem that much to others, but I take all my loose change, put it into a bucket, and it's amazing how, in the course of a year, if I don't get to that amount that I need, because I pay for the whole year, sometimes I just fall a little short, sometimes I exceed. And that's the idea too. Look at it in those terms. Just that loose change will more than adequately pay for what this levy is going to cost the homeowner.
Right. The issue 39, if passed, would bring in about $3 million a calendar year for the school district in a badly needed cash flow situation.
One of the things that people have said, well, how do we compare to other districts? Well, in Lorain County, we're the 5th lowest. That wasn't always the case, but our effective millage, which is what people pay, we are really on the lower 30% of payment in the county, and that has fallen over time. But we need to really address that at this point. Another letter I read, of course, said, well, it's unfair for property owners that they have to pay, and they're the only ones that have to pay. Well, that was the way it was set up by the legislature, as you said earlier. We don't have much choice on that. That's the way the millage works in the state of Ohio.
And amazingly, too, Tom and Dale, we see election after election after election, the number of school systems throughout Ohio where levies are going down to defeat, where systems, Cleveland, for example, a prime example, really in a world of hurt, and yet our lawmakers are just doing nothing to address the issue.
Yep, and that's part of the cost shifting that has gone on, and it has accelerated the last 2 to 3 years.
So what we need to do as citizens is vote yes for 39 and write our lawmakers, hey, let's
fix it.
Fix it. Thank you, thank you.
Absolutely.
You said that in a very nice way. Fix it, absolutely. Any other thoughts?
No, it covers it.
I think we're good.
We're good? Mm-hmm. All right, folks, so the only thing I can add to that is encourage those youngsters at home, work with them at home, take a few minutes. I know you're busy, I know you're working hard. Take the time to sit down, work with them, read to them, encourage them. Give them that positive attitude that when they leave home, they're going to get something that will pay them big dividends for their future. That's an education, and Lorain City Schools provides the best. We want to keep it that way, and it's going to take your help, your vote, yes, on issue 39. Until next time, Lorain.
This has been a production of Lorain City Schools, TV 20 WLCS.
To purchase a high-quality copy of the program you just viewed, please call Lorain City Schools Television at 282-8400.
With video games, I'm always choosing between what my kids want and what I think is best for them.
Hey Mom, how about this one?
Which is why I love these new rating summaries. They let me know exactly what's in the game. Combat, explosions, 2 female warriors expose cleavage.
Maybe the other one's better.
Get your free game rating summary today, and with it, the world's most powerful weapon, knowledge.
Plant inspiration. Provide youth with the creative tools and skills to cultivate it. And you'll be amazed at what can grow. Adobe Youth Voices and the Peapod Foundation. Learn more at plantandinspire.org.